Do you guys ever think about the worst fielders we've ever had to watch on the diamond? Daniel Murphy became a contact god in 2015 and 2016, but he was by no means a natural second baseman. Mark Reynolds hit nearly 300 home runs in his career and also displayed some of the roughest third base play I've ever seen. Poor Ian Desmond got no love in his peak years with the Nationals because of his struggles to man the toughest position on the infield. You know what would have helped all of these guys? The designated hitter rule, which has become available to both leagues for just the second time ever this season. It saved us from having to watch David Ortiz play first for most of his career and helped Edwin Encarnacion escape the hot corner, ultimately leading to his best offensive years. None of these aforementioned guys got that luxury, and in my mind, they suffered for it. Say what you will about the designated hitter, it divides a lot of fans, but that's not entirely what this video is about, because one guy we didn't mention likely would have benefited from it the most. He was what we now consider an above average power hitter. Outside of the obvious being home runs, Pedro Alvarez had decent walk rates, great barrel numbers, and absurd hard hit percentages. And yet, his career was short-lived. He might have just been 10 years ahead of his time. Let me explain. Pedro Alvarez was born in the Dominican Republic but grew up in Washington Heights in the same neighborhood as fellow ex-big leaguer Manny Ramirez. Alvarez was originally drafted by the Boston Red Sox, his favorite team growing up. However, he rejected their near $1 million offer after being drafted out of high school so that he could attend Vanderbilt instead. His decision paid off, as Alvarez tore up college ball and wound up becoming the second overall pick by the Pirates in the 2008 draft 3 years later. Baseball Prospectus ranked Alvarez as high as number 4 on their top 100 prospect list in 2009, and it made perfect sense. It took Alvarez just a year and a half to tear his way through minor league ball, debuting for Pittsburgh in 2010. He went just 7 for 46 in the latter half of June when he was first called up, but after getting enough daily reps, he was able to get his feet under him. After hitting no home runs in June, he hit 7 home runs in July. He exploded in the final month of the season in September, batting .306 with 6 home runs and 10 doubles. His efforts earned him the nod for National League Player of the Week in the third week of the month, and eventually National League Rookie of the Month honors to close out the 2010 season. Pittsburgh closed the year with 106 losses, but their new crop of young talent wasn't far from taking them out of the basement. Alvarez closed his rookie year with 16 home runs and an impressive OPS+. His strikeout total of 119 and his 17 errors in 95 games was certainly alarming, but many thought this would be something that Alvarez could improve upon with time. He wouldn't end up receiving any Rookie of the Year votes in a competitive class, including runner-up Jason Hayward, as well as the winner Buster Posey, who won the award and also the World Series in his first season. Alvarez was a good player in his own right, but his comparisons to Buster Posey would continue throughout his career due to the Pirates' decision to take him over the shortstop turned catcher who went 5th overall to the Giants. 2011, however, would be a nightmare sophomore year for Alvarez. After posting an OPS below 600 through the first 2 months of the season, Alvarez suffered a quadriceps injury that resulted in IL stints, inconsistent play, and eventually a demotion back to AAA. Alvarez posted paltry numbers at both levels, and many were ringing the alarm that the Pirates had wasted another top draft pick. Next season would be a proving one for Alvarez, likely deciding his future big league trajectory. And this is really where our story begins. In 2012, through just over 60 games in mid-June, Alvarez's year was a disaster. Errors galore, 15 multi-strikeout games, and not nearly enough power to excuse his poor performance. Alvarez was inching dangerously close to another demotion to the minor leagues, but then something miraculous happened. Alvarez hit 2 home runs in back-to-back games on June 16th and June 17th. This kicked off an incredible 30-game run for Alvarez, who collected 13 home runs and 33 RBI while batting over 300 from mid-June to mid-July. This helped steady his production at the big league level, and 2012 would go on to be his best season to that point. Later on, he hit a 469-foot home run on August 28th against the Cardinals at their home ballpark. Alvarez was a strong dude, and his manager, Clint Hurdle, spoke volumes of his talent afterward, stating confidently, "He has as much raw power as any player I've ever seen." Alvarez posted his first 30 home run campaign in this bounce-back year, and while his error and strikeout totals remained high, his power numbers reaching new levels counteracted those faults. Alvarez was one of just 20 players in 2012 with over 30 home runs and over 50 walks, as his plate discipline improved with his power. This resulted in a 115 OPS+, a very respectable metric. He was absolutely mashing, but this would be 10 years before the DH became regulated in the National League. Playing third base every day for the Pirates, both Alvarez and the team suffered, and his 27 errors would lead all National League position players. Despite this, while their 79-83 record in 2012 isn't super impressive by league standards, this was the Pirates' best finish in 15 years, and Alvarez's improvement was a huge piece of that. 2013 rolled around, and after another lukewarm first 2 months of the season, Alvarez arrived by homering on 4 straight days from June 20th to 23rd. He slugged over 700 in his next 20 games after this, and by midsummer, he was one of the best hitters on a very good, very surprising Pirates team. He was selected to the National League All-Star team in 2013, one of 5 different Pirates to achieve the honor that year. Alvarez also got to participate in the home run derby, replacing Carlos Gonzalez and hitting 6 home runs in the first round. And his team was riding high for the first time in over 2 decades. After a 4-game losing streak at the start of the month, they beat the Cubs to secure their first playoff berth as an NL wildcard team. Though the Cardinals caught them in the end, the Pirates won 94 games, and Pedro Alvarez was the team's 4th most valuable player by WAR. He'd become their MVP though through their exciting postseason run. He became the first player in baseball history to record an RBI in each of his first 6 postseason games. After homering in a Game 1 blowout in the NLDS, he homered again in Game 2, then he knocked in the game-winning RBI in Game 3, and then for good measure, he hit another home run in Game 4. On the biggest stage of his career to that point, he went 6 for 17 in the 2013 NLDS with 3 home runs and 6 RBI. But his Pirates fell, and though they'd returned to the wildcard game in the ensuing 2 years, they'd never get this far again. Alvarez went off, but this would close off the best 2 seasons of his career. Okay, so we're familiar with Pedro's peak now. Lots of home runs, lots of strikeouts, lots of errors, as well as decent plate discipline. He achieved a lot during his 2 years at the top of his game. He was one of just 9 players from 2012 to 2013 to club at least 65 home runs, with his mark of 66 being matched by renowned sluggers like Alfonso Soriano, Adrian Beltre, and Mark Trumbo. That list of 9 whittles down to a class of 5 when you also factor in a high walk total. In this 2-year span, the only hitters to have at least 65 home runs and 100 walks were Pedro Alvarez, Chris Davis, Edwin Encarnacion, Adam Dunn, and Miguel Cabrera. That's Pedro Alvarez and the Triple Crown winner Miguel Cabrera in the same class. That's pretty cool. Pedro Alvarez was one of just 5 players in big league history to club over 35 home runs while having an OBP under 300 for an entire qualified season, doing so in his All-Star 2013 season. Dave Kingman has done this 4 separate times, and this list also includes the likes of Adam Duvall and Kyle Seager in 2021. I say them both from 2021 because this has become more customary in recent baseball times. High power numbers, sacrifice for low on-base numbers. Another reason why Pedro Alvarez might have been more appreciated in the modern game. All these surrounding stats are the branches of these 2 large trees of strikeouts and home runs. For National League hitters, he placed top 10 in isolated power, hard hit percentage, and home run to fly ball rate. He also whiffed more than anybody in his own league and was top 10 for swinging at pitches out of the zone. A lot of players that advanced past Pedro in these metrics were players like Mark Trumbo, Chris Davis, Justin Morneau, also known as American League designated hitters. So this all begs the question, could Pedro Alvarez have been great? Let's examine how his peak seasons measure up in the current landscape of baseball. Let's take Pedro Alvarez's home run and strikeout totals for his 162 game average during the 5 years of his career that could be considered his peak. During this window, he averaged 32 home runs and 168 strikeouts over a full season pace. Let's take a look at some key players that have exceeded those parameters from just last year, and whether or not you consider them to be good or even great players. Shohei Ohtani did this in 2021 in addition to his Cy Young level pitching that won him an MVP. Salvador Perez did this while setting the catcher home run record and getting some reps at DH. Both Adam Duvall and Austin Riley did it for the World Series winning Braves. In total, there were 7 players that did this in 2021, and in 2012, Pedro Alvarez's original breakout year, only 3 players did this. But it just goes to show that this kind of production of high strikeouts and high home run totals is much more appreciated now than it was back then. If these guys could be considered great, could Alvarez have as well? Some of you have likely already discerned that with the designated hitter role now available in both leagues, Alvarez's defensive woes wouldn't have plagued his value. He slots in as a prototypical DH in many facets of his game, not just his power. For starters, his 9.5 walk percentage over his career helped fuel his OBP and OPS numbers, and this value is 1.2% better than the current league average of 8.3%. What's crazier is that Alvarez's barrel percentage of 11.4% is nearly 4% higher than the current league average of 7.8%. Barrel percentage league average was as low as 5.7% in 2017. You can argue that because StatCast has only recorded this data since 2015, it only accounts for a third of Alvarez's career games and should be taken lightly. But this was also the twilight of his career, his worst years, and if we factor in the data of his 30 home run years, perhaps this number is even higher. I'll let you decide decide what side you're on, but with the plate discipline and precise power that Alvarez was capable of, I don't think it's far-fetched to suggest that he could have been molded into something great had he entered the league 10 years later than he actually did. So does this all mean anything? Can any of this be considered certain? Who knows. But maybe Alvarez would have been given more shots at the end of his career. Maybe he would have been coached differently, implored to lean on his strengths rather than attempt to become something that he wasn't. Alvarez's peak isn't remembered well, but in my opinion, it's one of the most interesting careers I've gotten a chance to look at. He wasn't a well-rounded hitter, but his power was some of the best in the league. Alvarez did end up landing on his feet for those wondering though. In fact, the Milwaukee Brewers hired him as a baseball operations and player development assistant before the start of the season. I'm glad he'll get a shot to impart his wisdom to the game on others. It's just a shame that his career couldn't last a little bit longer. Who knows how many home runs he would have racked up by the end. But that'll do it for this video, and now a word from today's sponsor, Manscaped. Hey you. Yeah you. Got bush? You definitely do if you haven't tried the best products from our sponsor today, Manscaped. Taking control of your bush is important. These products are so good you're going to be showing pride in your new hair-free yard. Save big and be the most hygienic version of yourself by using my discount code OLIVE for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game. And the grooming package I highly recommend is the Performance Package 4.0. Inside the package is the Lawnmower 4.0, an electric trimmer with an advanced ceramic blade and skin-safe technology. It's basic landscaping. When you trim the hedges, the tree stands taller. The package also comes with the Weed Whacker, Crop Preserver, and Crop Reviver, among other things. You also get 2 free gifts, the Shed Travel Bag and the patented high-performance reduced chafing Manscaped Boxers. They also have a bunch of other products on their website to help you maximize your confidence and grooming game. So once again, get 20% off and free shipping with my code OLIVE at manscaped.com. Time to level up from the Amazon and clean up your grooming game this summer at Manscaped. Thanks to them for sponsoring today's video, and I'll see you guys next time.